Morning, everybody. Glad to see you all. Those I can see, those I can't see. We're going to start off today with a coordinator update. Jessica's out for this meeting, but Lizzie agreed to provide that overview for us. So take it away.
Thank you. 1 second. Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is an update on the Tri-Cities Homelessness Action Plan status. So year one progress was to build a strong foundation, develop a workforce development program, and develop a family system. Our current updates for these items for the Build a Strong Foundation was to create a Welcome Home community engagement program. Over the next few months, Jessica will be working with a plan to put together laundry baskets and household items with gift cards as part of a housing stability cohort and landlord initiative. These items will be available for participants who have attended the landlord initiative training to distribute as a part of their HSC membership to support clients who are placed in housing. The second item was to develop a workforce development program that is currently underway to open in early spring. We'll support partnerships and services collaboration with Bridge House as the opening is near. The third item was to develop a family system. Currently, this was put on hold and integrated into the new action plan under family system. The second year for 2023, the big items were develop a single adult system, develop a workforce development program, and develop a family system. So these items are currently in progress. The development of a single adult system. There's a pilot currently going with safe parking initiative. The first outreach was unsuccessful. They are now moving on to a second location that has showed interest in hosting a safe parking site. The initiative outreach started on November 8th to the second site location, which is identified as a church. There were three locations that were identified that have been added to the outreach spreadsheet, bi-weekly meetings with city representatives and Colorado Safe Parking Initiative representatives to work on the momentum towards the pilot, discuss outreach, and next step. For the Strengthen the Landlord Outreach Initiative work plans in place, working alongside Arapahoe County. The Key Heart training was conducted on October 28th and October 30th. The two-day training. Outcomes outlined on the following slide. The first housing stability cohort meeting with the trained participants will begin the 1st week of December. Here's some photos from the Key Heart training that was held through that 2-day session. The first day, the subject matter was landlord engagement. There were about 13 participants. The agencies represented were All Health, Task Case Management, Family Tree Housing Navigators, South Metro Housing Options, and Arapahoe County Housing Navigators. The event that was held on October 30th, the subject matter was housing stability. There were a total of 14 participants. The agencies represented were All Health Path, Family Tree Housing Navigators, South Metro Housing Authority, and then again, the Arapahoe County Housing Navigators. For the year 3 for 2024, the develop a single family adult system and the same thing, develop a single family adult system. The action items were to create an online plan form, to request homeless services, convene local healthcare providers to discuss street outreach teams, and sponsor a PSH feasibility assessment. The develop a single adult system is completed to convey local healthcare providers to discuss street outreach team. Stride participating in developing an action plan alongside coordinators and community partners for specific dates and times to outreach in the Tri-Cities based on need in specific pockets that may need support. Connected Stride with community partners in the area to conduct outreach. Ms. Jessica met with the VP of Operations at Swedish Hospital. Will present to social workers case management team on resources available for individuals discharged from the hospital who are experiencing housing instability. There is interest on Swedish's end to collaborate and attend the next healthcare convening. The last item that's in progress is develop a single family audit system, sponsor PSH feasibility assessment. The work plan for the PSH feasibility assessment is completed. She's moving on towards writing the RFP. We are looking to have the RFP on the streets early in 2025. She has spoken with one consultant so far, one PSH provider, and 2 are scheduled for the first week of December. So as of right now, 60% is completed of the work plan and 40% is in progress. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Lizzie. Those are some good updates. Gretchen, go ahead.
Yeah. So with the landlord engagement, those, except for there are no landlords there except for self-mentor housing options.
So the Key Heart training, Gretchen, was designed more to teach community outreach coordinators, navigation specialists on how to engage the landlords. That's what that training was specifically for.
Gotcha. Okay.
Rebecca, go ahead.
Right. I'm so excited you all got to engage with Key Heart, and I know Terry and Kathy very well. So that looks like an amazing training, and I've talked to them about it. I'm also going to just post up in the chat in case anyone missed it. MDHI is hosting some virtual trainings with CSH each month, and our next one happens to be around kind of that first year of tenancy, which I know they talk about in their training. So just we have a monthly opportunity to have these larger trainings. And then the next one is coming up on Wednesday of next week. The following week, there's something called an applied learning session. So folks can kind of come and learn all this stuff in the first training. And then the second training is a little more focused and conversation and discussion to reinforce those ideas. So I'll just post that up as something to reinforce the work that you all are doing. And we do put them out in our newsletter, but I know folks get a lot of information. So just wanted to highlight that too.
Which newsletter are you referencing?
Oh, sorry, the MDHI newsletter. So I just posted the website page here, but if you want to get future months as they come out, it's just mdhi.org and you can just sign up for the newsletter.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Rebecca. Anybody else have questions or comments on the work plan progress? I'm excited to see there's a plan with Stride and to hear that Swedish was open to discussion and being involved, since it seems like that's been a little bit of a hurdle. All right. We'll move on then. We're going to have a vote consideration on the severe weather sheltering subcommittee's plan that was presented at our last meeting. Someone gonna guide that? I do not have notes in front of me on. Remind me who's voting and if we need a motion or what's going on here.
I'll make a motion to approve the severe weather shelter plan.
Second.
All right, so I've got a motion from Councilmember Wright and a second from Councilmember Anderson. And our voting members are city managers and electeds, correct?
I was going to second that, but I think somebody else beat me to it.
Oh, did somebody else? Oh.
Yeah, I think
All
it was
right, we have
Sean.
second from Sean Lewis. I didn't even hear it.
Yeah, Sarah.
Okay, we have any discussion before we vote on that? I'd like to thank that subcommittee again. I think it's a really excellent document and a really nice, what do I want to say, a really sound plan with well thought out details. So I appreciate that.
Once we adopt it, will that be posted on the Tri-Cities website? Did we talk about that with, did we talk about that?
I feel like we talked about it, but I'm not positive. It might have been a couple of meetings ago now. So maybe we can add that to follow up on with Jessica.
We want that. I mean, I know the partners already have it, but I think that's great just as a resource since we're trying to drive more people.
Yeah, right.
and I'm certainly driving people there who ask about what are we doing to address the
Mhm. Yeah, maybe, I mean, maybe a version that's more public facing, you know, that doesn't have necessarily the contact details and things like that
Yeah.
the public wouldn't need, but
Yeah, Jim, can we get that
okay.
a Littleton report?
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
To Gretchen's question, yes, but I was just going to ask, I think if Jessica could help, or if the subcommittee could help with kind of what the, call it the one pager, kind of public information piece could be. I think if we don't have it already, having kind of that standard communication for each of the websites or PIOs could be very helpful.
Okay, would it make sense to us to have Jessica create a one pager that maybe is like a pictorial sort of workflow?
Yep, just
Okay,
kind of standard look
okay.
for us.
She's not here today. I asked her to do that.
Oh, thanks, Gretchen. I appreciate that.
And I have to step, I mean, I have to get to a 9 o'clock in Golden, so I will probably be far. Sorry, I know I hate.
Okay. That's okay. I think we're going to have a short meeting today anyway, so maybe you'll be able to sneak out of here. All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions before we vote on that plan? No? Okay. Yeah, I'll just do a voice vote. Can we call out the voting members? Is that all right? I'll go around. All right, I'll start with Gretchen.
Yes. Approved.
Joe?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Devin?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. So that motion is approved unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we'll follow up on getting a more public-facing document. And it looks like Rebecca said MDHI is also happy to share that public-facing document so other folks can see it. Thank you. All right. Next and last on our agenda is feedback discussion on the Tri-Cities Action Plan 2.0 from Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
Thanks, Mayor. And if it's okay, I'll share my screen, but I'll give a quick introduction. So last meeting a month ago, I was on vacation. So thank you to City Manager Lewis, who did an overview of this. What I'd like to do really quickly is just give you all an overview of what we've done and what we're proposing with the Action Plan 2.0. And then I'd very briefly like to go through each of the 3 sections we're proposing to get your feedback. So as I'm sure you probably all know, the action plan is actually set to the end at the end of this year. Thanks to Jessica and Mike Sangren before her and many of our other partners, we've been able to track our many successes. I think of all the areas, governance is one of the areas where we've had the most success. Last count, I think we had about 80% of that work completed, which is of course where we wanted to start. We've also made some major progress in 2 of the 3 other sections. As Lizzie mentioned, the family system one, I think, is the one that probably needs the most work that's outstanding. So what we've done is we presented to the City Council in Inglewood, Sean Lewis and I did in early September. We got some feedback. We shared that with the other cities. They also polled their council. Then the city managers and deputies met, got more feedback, started to kind of form what the plan would be. And so what you have in front of you is still kind of the raw plan, but it's the one that's kind of been vetted by city management in all 3 cities. The plan next week on the 21st of the Tri-Council meeting is to present this to all 3 councils and to get their go-ahead. And if we do get that, based on whatever edits or modifications they have, we do hope to bring this before the 3 councils, probably at this point by early January. And also what's kind of happening in the background as well is that we're working with the county to continue the Tri-Cities homelessness coordinator position, which is key. So I'm just going to go, so this section I'm not going to go through because it's just really like looking back at all of our accomplishments, which is I think important to include in the plan. But where I want to start is kind of talking about the cost and then in the reporting. But what I'll do is after each section, I'll pause and see if you have any feedback on the section. So for reporting, we do plan to handle this somewhat similar to in years past. There also are some performance metrics that we're proposing we add into the plan that we report on those quarterly. And Jessica, as the coordinator, has been doing a great job of reporting on data, so she'll continue to do that. In terms of the cost, this is just an estimate. So we're proposing 14 projects. I believe 12 of them, although I need to double check that number, were projects that were already in the action plan, the original one. And so the costs that you see here are actually not new costs. They're costs that were already identified 3.5 years ago when we built the action plan, was right around the time cities were getting funding from ARPA. We estimated the total cost of the action plan to be $750,000. That did not include most of 2 big ticket items. It did not include funding specifically for the Navigation Center, although it did include some seed money for the Navigation Center. It just didn't include money to continue it. And it also didn't include seed money for the workforce development projects. Although I think all 3 cities provided funding to Bridge House for the Ready to Work program that also came from ARPA, and then Inglewood also provided funding to another program called Cross Purpose. So we're really just proposing for funding that we continue these projects. And so with ARPA funding, it just has to be encumbered by the end of this year. So in checking with most of our finance departments, we should be able to do that. So what I'd like to now is go through each of the sections. So one important note is, as you probably know, there are 4 themes in the original action plan. So there's governance, individual system, family system, and workforce development. The proposal that we're making is that we declare success, and not that it's ever going to be completely done, but that we declare success in workforce development. Most of our major investments there have been completed. And so what we're proposing there is that we continue to have some robust reporting. Of course, we could always, on performance metrics, we could always add that theme back, but we really felt that there's a lot of successes there. So for governance, and actually I misspoke, there are 3 new projects. So it's, I guess, 3 new and then 11 continuation. We are proposing a few new projects. As I mentioned, most of the work in governance has been done. The recommendations you see in italics, those are recommendations that we've carried over from the first iteration of the action plan. But we are going to be asking for a few new projects in governance. And really the purpose of all of these projects is to create ensure long-term sustainability of Tri-Cities initiatives. So for the first one, this is something that we've been talking about for a while, but it's really spending the next year and a half working with stakeholders to figure out what financial sustainability looks like for the Tri-Cities. Going back to ARPA, you know, we're doing this work at an unprecedented time of federal funding for homelessness. So that was a huge pro. The challenge is that we knew the money was not going to be there forever. And so we've gone pretty far with it, but we know that we need to come up with a model that will help us sustain some of this work going forward. And I think fortunately, a lot of the things that we have invested in were kind of one-time seed money costs. So we're really looking at how do we continue to maintain initiatives going forward. And also, I apologize, there's one typo that I did not fix. So the first one is actually a long-range governance model, and that's really just figuring out the long-term sustainability of Tri-Cities. But then the financial sustainability one I mentioned is there, it was just here twice. And then the third one is develop the feasibility of a hosted fund. So for those who may not know, a hosted fund is, there are different foundations that do this, but basically it's kind of a recognition that while, you know, if the council support spending money on this, cities certainly can, but the cities also have limited resources. The county has limited resources. A hosted fund is really one where folks in the community, nonprofits, businesses can provide funding to support an initiative. Just one big example in the Denver area is the Denver Foundation. There are others that do this as well, but it would really be, you know, we thought maybe exploring one of these larger organizations that could kind of be the fiduciary agent for a fund to help continue this work could help us in the long run. Obviously, there's a cost for it. It's usually a few percentage points. But yeah, this is really the only section, to be honest, that has new projects. And again, this is meant to kind of build on the great work we've been doing on governance and to make sure we're sustainable into the future. So I'll pause here to see if there's any questions or comments on governance. Any questions on that? All right, I'll move on then to single adult system. So this is also labeled as chronic homelessness in the action plan. So all of these projects you're going to see here are things that we've either kind of just started or haven't had a chance to start yet, but were original to the action plan. So one is to create a online platform to create homeless services. I think we kind of viewed this as a 2.0 of the navigation center. So we were waiting to do this until the navigation center opened. That's why I have it as a 2026 year item. So just one thing I probably should have mentioned is we're proposing that this be a 2-year plan. The next theme is providing street-based services. So the piloting a safe parking program is something we've been thinking about exploring and starting to explore, as Lizzie mentioned, for a while. So we really want to focus on that during the next year. Continue to engage the healthcare providers, as Lizzie mentioned, is something that we've been doing and has started, but we want to continue to focus on. Another recommendation that Lizzie also mentioned is the expansion of housing opportunities. This is actually, I would say, one of the bigger ticket things that we've identified we really wanted to focus on. So we want to promote shared housing, strengthen outreach to landlords, and then the biggest one probably here on the bottom is to sponsor a feasibility analysis for permanent supportive housing. So that was early on when Mike Sandgren left, and we were thinking about what the next few years would look like for a coordinator. I think at the management level, we felt like this was probably one of the main, hate to say number one because everything in here is important, but one of the main things we wanted to see focused on. Any questions on the single adult system?
Yeah, I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Do we have a cost marked for that feasibility study?
Yep. So Councilmember Wright, and the amount is $50,000, and I pulled that from the original action plan. That was what our consultant and all the work that she did, what she estimated it would cost.
Gotcha. And that's what we have not done yet.
No, we have not.
Right. Okay. Is there any way that we have some ARPA money left over that we of course need to spend? So that's allocated for homelessness things. Is this something we could get at least by the end of the year? Not the results of the study, but put it in place so that we can follow up on it.
Yeah, so with the ARPA funds, as I understand it, is that the funding has to be encumbered by the end of this year. And so we have an intergovernmental agreement, or IGA, between the county and the 3 cities for the Tri-Cities Homelessness Coordinator. And so we are working towards bringing that to councils in December, I believe, maybe late in November. One of the things, Littleton initiated a conversation yesterday about could we put the funding for the different items you see here into that IGA so that we could start to move forward with them. So that's our plan. And I would say too, my understanding from our finance officers is that an IGA would count as being encumbered. So that's our plan going forward. Yeah.
Okay, great. Jim, awesome. I knew I hoped we were on the same page, so that's good that we are. Sorry, I've been a little preoccupied.
Yeah, congratulations and no worries.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Carrie, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, can you kind of define what you mean by permanent supportive housing? Use it in the Tri-Cities area, just because he is working on another project in the world.
I'm in trouble hearing you, Carrie. I don't know if it's just me, but.
Let me type it in, okay?
Okay.
I'll type it in.
I caught that you wanted to hear what permanent supported housing, what our definition is, but then you kind of cut out after that, so.
Well, we do have another project going on, but I think permanent supportive housing can mean different things in different places.
Okay.
I think and feel free, Lizzie, you've been working with Jessica on this, or any of the managers or council members to chime in on this, but The basic definition we've been working on is housing that is more permanent than a shelter, but also one where there are supports that are provided, so whether that's social work, job coaching, really kind of building off the navigation center areas of identification that we've been identified for people that have needs. So this is one we just haven't done a lot of work on, but it's actually been in the plan since the beginning. And I see Lizzie's hand up.
Commissioner Warren-Gully, the PSH feasibility study was to look at the dynamics of the Tri-Cities and see what was the best fit. I know each city has a specific, they want to hyper focus, but I think the majority were wanting to focus on families. And PSH can be anywhere from 30 days to 36 months to see what kind of designs and what kind of elements are needed and what the cost and what is possible within the cities. Is that correct, Tim? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's really, it's the feasibility study as you described.
And it's a focus on families.
I honestly don't remember if that was the focus originally. I don't know, Sean or Devin, or if you remember.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't think we
think when-
specified.
No, but when we talked about this last year, we were going for individuals.
Hmm.
Because that was where the biggest need was that we just hadn't
Mhm.
addressed. I see it for individuals, Carrie.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and to Mayor Butterfleur's point, I don't believe that we did make a decision early on. And honestly, when this was included in the original action plan, I think it was one of those things that we knew we needed to get to at some point. But definitely, if the council support having this in the plan, we need to do more, which we will do that engagement next Thursday, but get more engagement from the councils on how they'd like to see this play out. Great, and then that brings me to the last section, which is family systems. So my percentages may be a little old, 'cause I think it's from a few months ago, but of all the 4 sections, themes, this is the one where we still had some good work done, but less than the other 3. So we had about 40% completed. Obviously, as you all know, family homelessness manifests itself differently than often manifests itself differently than chronic homelessness. And so when we focused on building the actions, the navigation center, the idea was to focus first on a navigation center for individuals. But obviously there's needs we need to identify for families going forward. And so the first 2 action steps you see here tie to the theme or the recommendation of streamlining services for homeless families. So I believe that there is a group that meets pretty regularly with the McKinney-Vento coordinators. We want to continue to focus to build that up. We also want to work to designate a lead services provider, which is something similar to what we did for individual homelessness. And then we also want to create and focus on supports we may already have to prevent families from falling into homelessness. So we want to collaborate with school districts to ensure the risk of families who are at risk are aware of eviction protection programs. That we want to pilot a peer support specialist program to outreach to homeless families. And that we want to explore housing choice vouchers for families. So again, these are things that were all in the action plan that we know we need to focus on. It's an acknowledgement we all have that we really decided to focus first on the chronic or individual homelessness, and that we know we need to focus on families in the next go round. Any questions on that? All right, and then really quickly, I'll just show you, we have some performance metrics. So these came from a variety of sources. The governance or homeless in the Tri-Cities region metrics are primarily from the PIT count. So obviously those are reported once a year, but we do, obviously they're one data point. It's one night in January, but we still believe they're important data points to share. They help to an extent kind of show an overall picture of homelessness in the region and nationally as well. For single adult system, the metrics here came from either agreements or plans that we have in these areas. So we have 2 for safe parking, and then we have several for the navigation center. These are actually all in the contract with Bridge House for the navigation center. And then for workforce development, the metrics here for Bridge House Ready to Work and Cross Purpose come from the contracts we have with those 2 organizations. And And finally, family system. These are things that are mostly tracked through the McKinney-Vento process. And that's the action plan. So as a reminder, we'll be bringing this to the councils in a joint session next Thursday to get their feedback. And if they support it, we'll then be moving it forward for council approval, most likely in early January.
I think it looks great, Tim. I'm excited to see what the councils think. All right, anybody else have questions? Jim, go ahead.
Thanks. Can you hear me before I
Yes.
start? Thank you. So I think this is a great plan. Tim, thanks for putting it together. I want to mention that the city of Littleton has been doing some work to kind of finalize its commitments for ARPA funding. We still have a little bit left that's unspent. And so, you know, I know we're not talking about the IGA this morning here, but as the IGA reflects the action plan, our city council has given us direction to commit that funding, about $155,000 to the efforts of this group. So I know we're still trying to work, you know, among the managers group on how best to structure that, but there will be that additional resource that I think will help to drive some of these plans forward.
Great. Thanks so much, Jim, and Littleton Council. All right, anybody else have comments or questions about that plan? Of course, that's all subject to change depending on how the councils take it when we meet with them next week. No? Okay. All right, well, we'll look forward to that meeting and seeing what everybody thinks about it. And for today, we can move on. If anybody wants to bring up anything, we can have a little roundtable time. Anybody have anything to share about what's going on with their organizations? Rebecca, go ahead.
Hey, just a quick one, and folks probably saw the email, but our new executive director, Jason Johnson, we've finally hired our new ED after an exhaustive but successful process. So we're very excited. He will be joining the team mid-December, but really starting to meet with external partners in January, and we'll get him connected with this great group. And yeah, that's our big announcement.
Great. Devin, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Just wanted to make people aware that the Bonsai affordable housing project has started move-ins. So we've issued COs for several of the buildings, and they started move-ins last Friday. And then we'll keep those move-ins going through to the end of the year. They need to be all leased up. There is still availability with the units. So I think I don't have it in front of me, sorry, but if you kind of or Google Bonsai affordable housing, it'll pop up on their website, and you can find out how to get your questions answered or put on a list for consideration of that project. They're also, if anybody wants to do a tour of them, we're doing a tour next Monday, I think. And you can get a hold of me or yeah, me. and we can get you on that tour if you want to go. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Think for the group. Gretchen's still on. Let's say congrats to Gretchen and be elected to the State House. Hooray. Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know
stay in
with
close
having had you
contact.
on this team, we know what a great representative you'll be for our area. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I hope to still stay involved with this group.
Wonderful.
On the work that we're doing to move people into housing. I did have a question. Again, I've been a little preoccupied, but do we have the agenda set for our meeting with all the other councils?
We do have an agenda. I think it's still open for changes and updates. Krista had sent it out and said to let her know, especially about timings, if there's changes to how long you think you need to speak on your topic. So if you want to look for that email from her, we can firm it up. I think you and Joe and I are supposed to go over some successes, and we probably should decide which each of us wants to cover. Sean?
Gretchen,
Oh,
Mike,
yeah, that's
Mike and I can help with that too.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Jim.
okay. So how are we gonna parse that out?
I
Do
can
you want me
address that.
before or
Mayor.
you will, Sean?
Sean?
Yes, the city managers met, actually, I think the steering committee did this, and split everything out. And so we've got a draft PowerPoint that I sent to Jim and Devin yesterday. I think we'll go ahead and just send that draft out to everybody who's presenting today. That way you can start looking over it, look at your information, get any edits back to us to finalize that. So I think we're in pretty good shape. It's all Tim worked a long time on it, and I know Devin and Jim and Mike are going to be adding some additional information. So, but we'll get that draft out today so that you have each person has their kind of draft points.
Excellent. Thank you. And Tim, great job on that document for the action plan summary. I meant to tell you that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll look for that and get our updates on there. Anybody else have anything they want to share today? I don't see anything.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for helping us pass 1A.
Yay.
Congratulations.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you don't have to try
congratulations.
again.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it was really encouraging to see that people want you to keep doing your good work, and to have the funds for it. So
Yes, by 70%. It was unbelievable. I'm like, a bright spot for sure.
Yeah, and congratulations on your reelection too. We're glad you'll be able to continue participating with us here and everything else you do. All right. If nobody has anything else, I'm gonna let you all get on to your busy days today.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Thank you.
everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks all.
Bye.
thanks. Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.